Hello, my name is Mark Mullins. I'm a 57-year-old retired businessman. I've spent most of my adult life being self-employed in either sales or finance. I owned a company that manufactured and sold weapons to the U.S. military, and also owned a company that sold high-performance auto parts and restoration automotive parts for classic automobiles. I'm here today on Indiegogo because I need to raise about $2 million to print, publish, distribute, and of course sell a book that I've written about the Bible. This book is like nothing else that's ever been written. My book explains how the Bible, the book of Revelation, and the so-called end times all relate to the current state of geopolitical affairs around the world today. My book also answers many of man's age-old questions concerning God, the Bible, heaven, hell, death, life after death, why we're here, even where we come from. My book also explains when and why Christ may soon return to earth. I'm able to do this because I discovered a timeline in the Bible that tells us when and why Christ may soon return to earth. Now, when I say things like this, many people look at me like I'm crazy, and a lot of them probably think I'm crazy. You may think I'm crazy. A lot of people will go to the Bible and quote Matthew 24:36 and say that Jesus plainly said that no man knows the time of Christ's return. And that's exactly what it says. No man knows the time of Christ's return. Jesus said that over 2,000 years ago. When Jesus said that, at that point in time, that was true. It was correct. However, the Bible and the information contained in the timeline was not created until 1611. King James I of England created the first English language Bible in 1611. That's the reason so many of our Bibles are called King James Version. Therefore, the information that tells us when Christ will return was not even available until 1611. So when Jesus said that, at that point in time, it was correct. I'm sorry to say that the date of Christ's return seems to be September the 11th, 2018. Now, I'm sure everyone understands and recognizes the significance of that date. Unfortunately, what I found in the timeline is that Christ may be returning to earth in the middle of a global thermonuclear war, a war started by radical Islam. Eventually, this war will involve Russia, China, North Korea, and a coalition of Muslim nations who may soon attack the United States, Israel, and our allies. It's taken me almost 8 years of research to uncover all this information. I wrote the original manuscript in 2007, 2008, finished it in 2009, got my first copyright in May of 2009. In the original manuscript that was finished in 2009, I predicted that Barack Obama would be re-elected president in 2012. I also predicted the current state of racial unrest in America. I also predicted that the United States of America would soon once again be at odds with Russia. I also predicted the continued decline of our economy, as well as the economy of many other nations around the world. Unfortunately, all of these things have now come to pass. This timeline begins approximately 6,063 years ago, as of today, in Genesis 2 with God's creation of Adam, the first human being. The timeline runs all the way through the entire Bible, all the way through from Genesis 5 all the way to Revelation 11 with the return of Christ. All of this time, all the way from Genesis to Revelation and the return of Christ, is a total of 6,066 years and 6 months. The number 666, found in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 18, is simply a misinterpretation of Greek numbers or Greek symbols that were used to represent numbers in the original text of the book of Revelation. The real number of the beast is not 666. It's 6,066 and 6. 6,066 years and 6 months. That's the number of years that God has given mankind to rule planet Earth. Unfortunately for many of us, the timeline and the 6,066 years and 6 months ends on September the 11th, 2018, with what seems to be the beginning of a global nuclear conflict started by radical Islam. Revelation 9:15 says that the initial nuclear exchange will kill 1/3 of all the people alive on planet Earth. Now, I don't need to elaborate on this to tell you what this would mean to our way of life. It's basically the end of the world. The entire 6,066 year and 6-month timeline is divided equally into 3 segments of 2,022 years and 2 months each. The first 2,022 year and 2-month segment began with God's creation of Adam in Genesis 2:7. The actual timeline begins in Genesis 5 with the genealogy of Adam. The end of the first 2,022 year and 2-month segment is found in Genesis chapter 14, verse 18, at a great battle called the Slaughter of the Kings. This battle is only mentioned twice in the entire Bible, in Genesis 14 and then in Hebrews 7. There's a repeating pattern of creation and destruction throughout the entire Bible and the timeline. First, God created Adam. Then 2,022 years and 2 months later, he came back and destroyed the armies of 15 kingdoms in order to save the lives of Abraham and Lot. Abraham and Lot were both direct descendants of Adam. If you read the list of the genealogy of Adam in Genesis 5 and then go on to Genesis 11:10, it becomes obvious that Abraham, Lot, Adam were all related. The second 2,022 year and 2-month period began immediately after Genesis 14. The second 2022 year and 2-month period ends in Luke chapter 1 with God's visit to the Virgin Mary and with the creation of his son Jesus. As I said previously, creation, destruction, creation. Unfortunately, this next time when God returns to earth on September the 11th, 2018, he will be on a mission of destruction. He'll be on a mission of war, a mission to stop mankind from destroying the earth with nuclear war. You see, the earth belongs to God, not to man. If you read the very last line of Revelation 11:18, it plainly tells us exactly why God has returned to earth at this particular point in time. Revelation 11:18 says, "And should destroy those who would destroy the earth." God used the list of the genealogy of Adam and all those who descended from Adam, all the way to Abraham, then on to Jesus, to create this timeline. The second 2022 year and 2-month segment begins in Matthew 1 by telling us that this is the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Jesus, Abraham, Adam were all related. The entire Bible is a story about the genealogy of God's chosen people. Adam was the beginning of this genealogy, and you can trace this same genealogy all the way through the Bible, eventually directly to Jesus. Matthew 1:17 gives us a second genealogical list of those who are directly related to Jesus, and plainly tells us that Abraham was directly related to Jesus. Luke 3:38 even says that Adam was also the Son of God. Matthew 1:17 tells us that 42 generations passed from Abraham until the Christ. One generation is equal to 49 years. This is explained to us in Daniel 9:24. Here in Daniel is told that 70 weeks are determined for your people. Strong's Exhaustive Concordance tells us that the word determined means cut out. Therefore, 70 weeks are cut out of the timeline. 70 weeks is equal to 490 years. The genealogical list of Genesis 11:10 through 11:26 is exactly 490 years in length. It contains 10 generations. 490 years divided by 10 generations equals 49 years per generation. This is how God chose to tell us how many years are in a generation, and this helps us construct the second timeline. The last 2022 year and 2-month period began the date that God returned to earth in Luke chapter 1 in order to plant the seed that would become Jesus Christ. That date was approximately what we would now call July 1st of 5 BC. 2022 years and 2 months into the future is exactly September the 11th, 2018. Now, for those of you who are really good at math, you're going to say, well, there's an extra 10 days in there. And you're exactly right. Unfortunately, if you check history, you'll find that in 1545, 10 days of the calendar was skipped because of man's previous manipulation of the calendar. So there is no extra time. The date is correct. That's the date. As I pointed out before, there's a repeating pattern of creation and then destruction throughout the entire biblical timeline. God created Adam in Genesis 2:7. Then in Genesis 14:18, he destroyed all those who were a threat to Abraham, Lot, and his family. Remember, Abraham was only 10 generations from Adam. On God's next visit, he returned and created Jesus in the Virgin Mary's womb. The next time God returns, on September 11, 2018, he will destroy all those who have started the nuclear war that threatens to destroy all God's work here on earth. God's not going to allow the evil men who run the world to destroy his work. However, before any of that happens, Revelation 11 tells us that 1,260 days before September 11th, 2018, something very bad happens to the two witnesses. Now, many of you are going to say, well, who are the two witnesses? Some of you will know and some of you will not know. The United States of America and the nation of Israel are, in fact, the two witnesses. 1,260 days prior to September 11th, 2018, is the date of April 1st, 2015, April Fool's Day. It happens to be just 3 days before the Passover of 2015. Remember, Jesus was crucified on the Passover, 31 AD. I believe that there is a high probability that radical Islam may attack the United States and Israel on or near April 1st, 2015, or on Passover 2015. Most Bible scholars agree that the Bible tells us that the Great Tribulation will last about 7 years. 1,260 days is 3.5 years, approximately half of 7 years. 1,260 days after September 11th, 2018, the date of Christ's return, is the date of February 22nd, 2022. I wonder what the odds are that we found that all the time in the Bible, from the creation of Adam until Christ's return, is a total of 6,066 years and 6 months, and that all that time is divided equally into 3 segments of 2,022 years and 2 months each. Then the timeline tells us that the Great Tribulation may end on February 22nd, 2022. The odds that all of this is mere coincidence are beyond astronomical. I'm asking you to help me get this information to as many people as possible in order to save as many lives as possible. I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at your convenience.